Let's see who's trying to figure out if there is anybody here. Is me there? Okay, let me continue with this. Okay, this is how it's generally the Muslims and all those who critique the Christian doctrine of Trinity as something very illogical. This is how they apparently they seem to say this, as I understand it. First thing they will say, what is the logical problem of Trinity? It consists in these statements. Uh, Number one is that Father is God, Son is God, Spirit is God. Father is not the Son is not the Spirit is not the Father. Question arises, can we say there is one God? It appears, they say that logically, that there are three gods. The reason being, what they're saying is that because once you make the statement, Father is not the Son, so but I have in my earlier my video that is I have pointed out what because where these statements big, they are of this form. A is X, B is X, C is X, A is not B, B is not A. So can we say there is one X or and my critique of this problem itself has been that if you reduce all this, what we call cross God, progressive God is the whole thing. You can reduce this elements of God to these symbols, as a mathematical symbols. To do that, there is something wrong with this whole. One is fail to understand what talking about Father, Son, and Spirit. If that's what you, if you want to look into that in detail, you might have to go to my video titled Jake the Metaphysician, Busted about this logical problem of Trinity. Today, I want to talk with you about the math of this mathematical objections to Trinity, how they, and my issue with them is, or what I'm raised, my question that I'm raising is it really logically coherent to use math operations to understand Trinity? Now, Muslims love to talk about this. You know, they say, hey, they will 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 3. Why? Because there is Father, there is Son, there is Spirit, each is God, so you have three gods. So you say 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 3. So you are polytheists. Okay, now let's have some fun with this. I want to keep this for a moment, you know, the whole, let's not talk about these Christian doctrinal and faith terms, you know, the statements about faith. Let's talk about just about reality, our created reality. Let's talk about numbers. Why? Because if they have anybody who objects to about Trinity, using numbers must remain consistent. Okay. Now, my question to anybody who says 1 + 1 + 1 equals to 3 is, why have you picked up this addition Why haven't you picked up 1 times 1 times equals 1? Now, okay, he will say, why it's intuitively, right? If you have 3 entities, you add them up and you get 3. It's intuitive. Okay, so what about 1 times 1 times 1 is equal to 1? Is that intuitive? What does that mean? Or is that use of 1 in the same manner that the same one that you used here cannot be used here, I mean, or can be used here? So why is this not intuitive and why is this intuitive? And I just want to tell you the reason is that um, we learned to add things when we were taught at a very young age, in kindergarten or just in your primary elementary school. That's when you learn to add things and we come up with these. Uh, then they learn, they teach you to count. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. And then they teach you multiplication tables. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3. However, if you really look at these things, these are apparently intuitive, but how is this intuitive? 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. I know the Muslims say, why do you have to say 1 times 1 times? We can say 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times ad infinitum, you still have 1. Okay, this is the problem with that. That means that really, all those people who object to, who like to use this and are afraid of this, is because they have really failed to understand the nature of numbers and nature of these operations. That is what is happening. Now, this addition, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. Can anybody prove that? You will laugh at it. You will say that is intuitively right. Well, that's because you were taught like that. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. What about this one? If this is intuitive, why is 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1? Regardless of whether how many times. Let's just take 3 because we're dealing with 3 entities. 3 ones there. There are 3 ones there, and you get, there are 3 ones there, and you get 1. Can anybody tell me why it can't be equal? Why this is bigger? Now, let me ask a question. Is this 3, is this 3 greater than or less than this one? You know that now intuitively you would say that 3 is greater. Well, let me say something. Your answer is wrong. If then your answer is wrong. I would like you to think about it, and this is the reason. Okay, you have to first understand one means. You know what one is. 1 times 1 is 1. It does not mean 1 plus 1. Well, you will say, yeah, because that is true. So what is 1 plus 1? 1 create objects in number. How are you going to do this one? Now, there's a problem here. Supposing you had 2 plus 2, that is 4. What about 2 times 2? That is 4 too. 2 times 2 times 2, that will be 8. And 2 plus 2 will be 6. Now this becomes 6. So intuitively, we really they don't make sense. This can be defined as repeated addition, repeated addition, repeated addition, addition. But how do you get 1 times 1 is equal to 1? Or then 1 times 1 times 1 equal to 1. How do you get that? Okay, I'm going to make this statement that 1 plus 1 equals to 2. Looks numerically greater than 1 times 1, but in terms of its quantitative value, this is lesser than this. You know why? Let's assume, because see, the number is very difficult to show something with pure numbers unless you attach an object which really you cannot compute. You cannot say, for example, or let's say 1 apple plus 1 apple. This will be 2 apples. Okay? But 1 apple multiplied by 1 apple is equal to what? If you say 1 apple, can you say that this is 1 apple? No, because these operators are not applicable to objects. Some qualitative things coming up, something more than numbers. Numbers tell you the quantity, whereas sometimes there is also measurement. You know, so this is how it goes. Let me show this to you what the problem is. Lots of people. 1 plus 1, if you say 1 centimeter, if you take as a line, you take a line which is 1 centimeter long. Okay, so this is line. So 1 centimeter plus 1 centimeter will become 2 centimeters. But 1 centimeter multiplied by 1 centimeter is equal square. And 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter is equal to 1 centimeter cube, which is the cube whose radical value will be 1 cube of 1 centimeter cube. It is 1 centimeter. Okay? So this is why it's a cube that we call it. So 1 centimeter cube is a much larger thing than 3 centimeters. If you added 1 plus, if this was 1 centimeter plus 1 centimeter plus 1 centimeter, this will be equal to 3 centimeters. Okay? Now 3 centimeters, I will tell you, is not the same thing. It could be. It doesn't have the same quality of this. This one is not the same qualitatively for this thing. This is a length, just centimeters. This is centimeter cube. So which would be like this will look like this. So if you had each is 1 centimeter, this is 1 centimeter, okay? And this is 1 centimeter. So this is 1 times 1 is 1 centimeter cube. This is what the thing is. Okay. So I don't know how many of you know about C.S. Lewis. He has basically given this argument. He says, look, a line is just a line. You can have 1 line or 3 lines, 1 centimeter line, 1 centimeter, 3 lines. If you add them up, you get 3 lines, 3 centimeter long. But if you have a square on a plane, that'll be 1 times 1. You still have the lines. There are 4 lines there. You know, so the perimeter is going to be 4 centimeter there. If you had the 4, but not only that, there is area inside that is really 1 square centimeter square, we call it. So when you start comparing this and saying, well, when a Christian comes up and say, why don't you use the operation multiplication? There is no good answer to that. Why? Because there are two possible operations in number system. Especially then this is natural numbers we are dealing with. You can deal with real line. We usually our normal operations are one one is called addition, the other is called multiplication. And then we have properties of addition and multiplication. But those two operations are natural to the system. So, but that is dealing with numbers. Now, you can't do that thing with entities, especially, for example, there are objects. Like, for example, I can say, what is one mango plus one orange plus one apple equal to? Is it 3? Is it 1? Is it 1 mango, 2 or 1 orange, 1 or 1 mango plus? You can say 3 fruits. Okay, you can say 3 fruits. Why did you guys change the word fruits? Because a common basis, something which is common to them. You took you can call it the let's say essence of a mango is being fruit. Essence of took the essence, and therefore you could combine that. You combine them because of that reason. However, so if you said the 3 objects, then you made them an object. Okay, and these are finite objects, and the nature of these objects, they are divisible and they are finite. You can count them. There are 3, 1, 3. But when it comes to addition, what do you get? You just they are still separate. You can't say this is 3 because you can't, because you don't know whether the what other operation can come into the play. Here we have two in number system. We have 2 operations, addition and multiplication. But here, what does mean to say 1 mango multiplied by 1 orange multiplied by 1 apple? It wouldn't make sense. Well, however, if you had this measurements, unless you define them, these kinds of measurements which have a magnitude, and then you say multiply those numbers, then you get certain value. But that is a valid value. And there are things like a cube is. So why is it that we have to pick up just 1 plus 1 plus 1 in trying to understand the ultimate reality? We cannot even put the natural things that are come in our everyday experience and in our everyday use. We cannot even comprehend how to. Now take another. Now the thing about this was mango and oranges, apples were, they are discontinuous, they are divisible, okay, they are countable. But there are like nouns that are not countable. For example, water. Water is not. So what if I say 1 water plus 1 water plus 1 water is equal to how much? That be equal to 3 water. Yeah, that is equal to 3 water. You can't say 3. You have to say 3 waters. This thing, water, is continuous and indivisible. So no matter how many times you add this thing, it will still remain water. That's 1 water. Now, I'm not going to say that that's how Trinity is, because this is, I'm just trying to explain the use of mathematics. So absurd in understanding our reality as such, because how things add up, multiply in nature are not in the same manner as you do it with numbers. And we can't even prove why 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to, or why 1 times 1 is equal to 1, unless you define them using some kind of other, give some, qualify them further, like there is 1 centimeter or there is 1 apple or something like that. You have to name something. So there's Now we have been saying like, oh, 1 plus 1 is equal to. Now look at that. Each one is a digit. Each is a 1 is a digit. This is a digit. How is it? And this is also a digit. On the left hand side, there are 3 digits. And on the right hand side, why? Because this digit being a digit essence of what we've written here. So what you have on one side you're saying, oh, it's impossible, 1 plus 1 plus 1 cannot be 3, cannot be 1. But you reverse it. On this side, you have 3 digits, and 3 digits equal to 1 digit. How is that possible? The point is that we are not really looking at the nature of things here. Define what is the reality of the object that we are dealing with, and whether it is vulnerable to these arithmetic or mathematical operations. Now, when we say the Father, Son, and the Spirit, we obviously have used 3 words, different words. So they are subject to counting. You can say there are 3 entities, whatever you can, 3 beings, 3 persons, we say in Trinity. So, but that is not, that is what you've done with. But how do you know that just as in number system, in our number, we have 2 operations, addition and multiplication. How do you know that there is not another within the divine existence? Okay, so which will be something like 1 times 1. So which is really, we will call that, we will not call that multiplication because these operations are applicable only to number. We will say something like that. Okay, this one, these are operations. Here, these are only known to God. What has been revealed to the Christians or to the churches, that this really operation is the union of love. It is the love in God that goes. And what is that equal to? This is always equal to God. This is God. So there are not 3 gods because there is, you don't say, oh, because they're not same, therefore there are 3 gods. But remember what we said in water. If you have 1 God, we write this, and I challenge anybody to dispute that. If you have 1 God plus 1 God plus 1 God, well, it looks like because this is common, so you have 3 gods. Okay, you say that there are 3 gods. But how do you know that these 3 gods are really our misunderstanding? We are using only one operation, but not the operation that exists within God. And that 3 gods equals 1 God. So that is what the mystery, I think, exists in understanding the triune God of the Christians. The triune gods of the Christians has experienced by having faith in Jesus Christ. So just as you had 1 water plus 1 water plus 1 water is equal to 3 waters, but it's 1 water, but that is kind of in created world. We cannot exactly know what is that operation. So I used, this is not choose. When you do this, this is, it appears 3 God, but there is this operation also going on. This is the one. As I said, let us call this the operation was 1 God. This is the operation. Let us do it so we are making a distinction. This one God is equal to 1 God. Okay. Now that is the mystery. But this is has to be a larger mystery because it's very difficult even for an ordinary man to understand about this. But that's the problem, I think, with lots of theologians and philosophers are talking about one times one, but they don't seem to have this understanding of what they're saying. I think it was C.S. Lewis who really understood, and he explained that. He said, like, if you go from one-dimensional to two-dimensional and three-dimensional things, there is a relationship between them, and yet and there is unity and there is diversity. For example, you have in one unidimensional one line. If you take a square, it is in a plane. If line exists in a plane, the square exists in a plane. But then you have a spatial object, three-dimensional, like a room, or like as I said, a cube of some made up of many things. In this, you have breadth, you have length. So there are three dimensions. Measure the thing, that's going to be much superior, or if that's what the language you can use, or much better than what you have in a plane. So here you have 10 lines. Just if you take the perimeter, they're made up of line. The square, you have 4 lines. But if you add the same thing, 1 plus 1, say you have 3 lines. So those things are different. And there is no reason why one should be denying this cube 1 times 1 times 1 when as a retort against those people who come up and say, oh, Howard's your Trinity is like 1 plus 1 plus 1. Why can't I retort with them? Howard 1 times 1 times 1. Why not 1? They say, why Howard? It doesn't matter whether you can infinite times or 4 times or 3 times. We are just saying that you have taken 3 up to 3, 1 plus 1 plus 1. So we will take 1 times 1. And ask you this question, how or which one or less in power or in measure, somehow you can apply this to God. If there is a measure and you know that measure, how is that equal or less or less or greater? Like, how is this one God less than this? Christians say they're all equal. So we don't know what exactly is. What in love, there have to be more than one. You can't have just self-love. And I know some people have been saying, talking about self-love, they love himself. But that will be the height of greed, self-centeredness. I don't know how reasons show that being who has nothing out there really, really happy or relationships. If you are love, you have to have relationships. Therefore, the Christian position that God is His Father, God is Son, God is the Spirit, and in each and every moment of God's self-existence, this always Father, Son, and the Spirit. It's not that you have first the Father, then you add up Son, then you add up Spirit, you got 3 gods, and then we Christians come up and say, no, these 3 gods are one. This is not how it is. It is that in each revelation of God, we get to see whatever God reveals to us. We get to see Father, we get to see Son, we get to see the Spirit, experience them. We get to see concurrently at the same moment and the same time. Or we just get to, or we just experience this oneness of God. What is going on is that regardless of what you're experiencing, whether you're experiencing Father, whether you're experiencing the Son Jesus, or the Spirit, they're all there as God, one. With the Father is the Son, with the Son is the Spirit, and with the Spirit is the Father. These three always together one. So that dynamic union, you can call it, and because of that is why we have the doctrine of simplicity, that if we can use a special uh, you will say that in every point, every infinitesimal part of God will be God. And that will be Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. This is what it means. And because we use three truths, it is vulnerable to addition, simple counting, 1 plus 1 plus 1. But remember, that does not exhaust the reality of God. This just tells us what has been revealed to us. But the ultimate truth and mystery of God exists in some other, which we don't know. At best, Christians claim, and Bible claims, and Jesus proclaimed, and Christians, the church has been saying that, is that there is an operation called love that is the essence of God. This thing is not there in Islam. I know there is a verse, that Allah is Al-Wadud, Wal-Wadud. Well, that's a whole other story, which I will not go into. So, sisters and brothers, friends, I want you to understand this, that this is just anybody who talks about 1 plus 1 plus equal to 3 and then comes up and say we are polytheists, that person neither understands theology nor really understands, because of that person cannot why 1 plus 1 plus 1 is greater or less than 1 times 1 times. You cannot explain that. And why is 1 times 1 times 1 equal to 1? Anybody who will explain that, other objects name, you have to say like 1 feet times 1 feet times 1 foot, not feet. Feet is plural. 1 foot times 1 foot times 1 foot, you get 1 cubic foot, cubic foot. So that's how, and the cubic foot is in power equal to 3 feet. Well, that'll be a whole other story. There's lots of people. Why it'll be so? But if this kind of strange thing is happening in our finite reality, in the everyday experience, and that it is paradoxical, how much more difficult it is for us to really comprehend how there are three persons by God in the Godhead, and how these three persons really ultimately are always one God. Yeah, that's the mystery we cannot comprehend. Why? Because we just do not know that second operation, or there may be many other operations within one that we don't know, that really have the Father, the Son, and the Spirit relate, and they always exist in that relationship. Just like, now let me make an analogy, but it shouldn't be comparable to God. We don't find it, but in finite reality, we see something. Lines, I have not heard them say this. They are confused. They try to find metaphors, or trying to create or discover some analogous, analogically, which would probably explain the Trinity. There's no need to go there. You have to comprehend this simple thing. If you can understand the simple difference in arithmetic addition and arithmetic multiplication, the significance of that, you might be able to appreciate the mystery of the triune Christian God. Thank you.